This is 10:48 GMT on Tuesday, the 4th of August 2020. This is a preview of the next edition, which will be on air in 10 minutes or so. And the edition will have an update on the confession by Tahamlar's Council in East London to the guilt of negligently killing the 5-year-old girl, Alexis, and in July 2015 in the Myland Park by a swing that was made of rotten wood. Rotten Varata Hamlet's Council confesses to rotten wood being used in a dangerous way that killed a 5-year-old child. So that confession has been reported now in Tuesday's London Evening Standard and copied in effect by the Archant-owned East London Idiotizer, both items byline to the same writer, Rachel Barford. Now, Barford doesn't go into any of the allegations that Tower Council has been leveled with in the last 5 years, but she gives a very brief factual reference to some of the admissions by Travelers Council following the decision by the Health and Safety Executive to prosecute Travelers Council. The most important bit in that item is the confession by John Biggs, the executive mayor, that they will plead guilty to the charge that is formally listed to be heard later this year. But I think that because of the confession and admission that they will be admitting guilt, a full-scale hearing may not take place. And probably, tactically, that is one of the reasons why the habitual liar and denier, John Biggs, has decided to make this stunt confession. Because if there were a full-scale hearing, a lot of the other criminality that actually goes on inside Tower Council would have come out. So it is only a matter of time before the final decision. But the fact is that they have allocated more than £2 million as legal cost for the anticipated charge and prosecution over the killing of the 5-year-old child in Myland Park on the 17th of July 2015. Now that confession may be for his own careerist opportunities, but that confession is also including on the facts the liabilities that the council owed over the years during the regime of Lutfur Rahman, because the unsafe structure maintained by Tower Council and the playground in the Myland Park had been there for years. And this is a rare occasion when the facts of the depth of the degenerate lack of safety by the Tower Council may come to be discussed or aired in public, but they still may find a way to hide most of the failings by staging a confession and then avoiding a full-scale hearing and examination of the evidence and the scrutiny. So that is the news on Tuesday, the 4th of August 2015 about Travelers Council. And we renew the demand that June Harvey's death be investigated properly and Travelers Council be prosecuted equally for the collapse of the crane on the 8th of July 2020. We had been supporting the campaign not in personal contact with the mother of the child, but we had been from a distance making the longest ranging claims in support of her claim for justice for her child. And we can say a bit more in detail later in the full bulletin that will be on air at 23 hours GMT and midnight UK time, and we shall be discussing also the implications of the other safety failures, structural building safety failures by Travelers Council. And it is an ironic kind of mix and a collusion and collaboration between the West Ferry Printworks Degeneration Project briber, the Secretary of State for Housing, Robert Jenrick, and Travelers Council, because he has now unleashed a removal of all the token regulation on building safety and planning applications. And that means the Travelers Council will be laughing all the way because they will then be excused of a lot of liabilities that they have been actually responsible for over decades. So that will be another issue that we'll be looking into in greater detail. There is an item about the film based on, but not literally copying the novel by Vikram Seth, the Indian descended writer, A Suitable Boy. Now that publication of the promotional kind of tirade for his film or the film based on his book has been now joined by Yasmin Alibai. She is also known as Yasmin Alibai Brown. She became notorious as a campaigner against the rights, the universal rights of the offended Muslim community who were protesting against Saitan Rushdie in the late 1980s. And she was recruited for the first time by the mainstream, so called the New Statesman, to start the campaign against the Muslims protesting against Saitan Rushdie. Now, over the years, Yasmin Alibai has been given slots all over the place in the British mainstream, and she has been given a career, in other words, just like Janet Street Porter was given a career as the feisty female among the white media personalities. Yasmin Alibai has been given a kind of token, surrogate type of role as a Muslim. But she has actually made her career by attacking Muslims generally, just like the terrible Trevor Phillips, has been making a career by attacking black people and especially Muslims. So, and the history of Yasmin Alibai Brown's collusion with the general anti-Muslim human rights agenda is very significant now that she is beginning, like Michael Madhusudan, who confessed that he was not accepted by the English and he became a Bengali writer and he wrote Meghnad Bodh and other big epic poems. Yasmin Alibai Brown has become suddenly aware of just how racist her sponsors and her promoters have been over the last 30 years since the New Statesman recruited her as the main Muslim columnist, Muslim woman columnist, deriding the Muslims, protesting against Saitan Rushdie. And we shall be talking about other topical issues in that bulletin, which is due at 23 hours GMT, but it may be actually recorded a bit later. Until then, this is the introduction.